Hello everyone, today we are outside the set of the pub from Ted Lasso. I could have done that way better, I'm better than that. So now we are going down Richmond Bridge. This is, why do I keep saying Today I'm standing in a busy road trying to get hit by a car.
Please someone take me out of my misery.
Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Oh, okay. We are outside the other entrance to Selhurst Park. As you would know if you've seen the show, Ted literally lives like down that little road. Okay, I'm gonna just stop it right there. As you can see, this is a bit of a mess. I've been trying to film a video talking about Ted Lasso, and I was gonna try and record this entire video out on the set, but this was a pretty long script, and I just really didn't have that much confidence recording when people were staring at me. We are, getting some weird looks. Hi, I hate this. I don't think I can record a scripted video like this. And I don't want this video to be a mess. This is probably the most important video I am ever going to make. Okay, I don't know, if you really enjoy it, please smash like. Obviously, I'm assuming a lot of you already know this. I'm a massive Ted Lasso fan. It's my favorite show of all time. And I'm not afraid to say that after 2 seasons, just 2 seasons, and without it even being finished. I think it's that good. It connects with me on the most personal level, and I love it. There are basically going to be no spoilers in this video. I'm only going to be talking about season 1 just to try and convince you all you need to watch this show. And I'm not sponsored by Ted Lasso, by the way. This is going to seem like a sponsored video because of how positive I am, but no, I just genuinely really love it. However, if Ted Lasso does want to sponsor me, I'm planning on doing 2 more parts to this series. This is going to be a 3-part series where I talk about each season, so literally just hit me up. I'm very happy to be sponsored by you. I think you're great and I love you. Tell me what dates you're filming on. I was really hoping they'd be filming on one of these days when we're just out at the sets and we could just be like, oh, hi guys, how's it going? I think they would come up to me and go, Seamus, we know you're a big fan of the show. Do you want to be a guest star in season 3? And firstly, I want to address what I assume are the main reasons people haven't watched this show yet are. 1, it's on Apple TV. I kind of get that. Not everyone has Apple TV, not everyone has any interest in getting Apple TV, but if you do have interest in getting Apple TV, then you wouldn't just be getting it for this show. I also think Severance on Apple TV is absolutely fantastic, and Coda, the movie that won Best Picture at the Oscars, is also on there. Like, there's reason to get Apple TV, but I get if you're like financially in a position where you can't really be getting Apple TV, that's fine. There's a pretty valid reason to not have watched the show. Then secondly, I imagine there are some people that just haven't heard of the show before. I feel like it's getting more well known, but it isn't quite like a household name of a show like The Office or Friends or Breaking Bad or Game of Thrones yet. But yeah, I'm sure there are some people that haven't heard of it, but here you are, you're watching a video about it, so to an extent, you are familiar with its name now. But then thirdly and finally, I feel like one of the main reasons a lot of people haven't seen this show is because from the outside, it looks like a football or soccer show. And the quite literal opening scene of the show does no favors for it here. It could deceive you into thinking it's a sports show. It's not, but for totally valid and understandable reasons, that could put a lot of people off watching this show. I tried to talk about this outside of Crystal Palace's ground where they actually filmed the Nelson Road scenes in Ted Lasso. You know what's an interesting thing we could talk about while outside a football stadium? The stigma around football fans and like that culture. But I felt really uncomfortable talking about locker room culture and the negative impacts of this in society and all that stuff outside an actual football ground and an actual locker room. But there is definitely this toxic masculinity culture that can be brewed from all these men in a locker room together, and specifically from football and other sports. And for that reason, large portions of society want nothing to do with sports culture, and that's completely valid. I know it's the age-old cliche, but you have like the jocks at school and then you have the nerds at school, and I'm assuming there's probably a lot of people watching this video that got bullied by people at school or even in later life by someone who was really into sports, and that would just put you off all of that for life. It's completely understandable. And to talk about his experience with being bullied by sports people, I've brought in a gay man.
I think literally every gay person can relate to the gay fear of a group of men accidentally losing their football and it rolling towards you and you have to kick it back to them. I think that described my whole experience. I tried out for a football team once. It's like the mean girl in school, and she was like, we don't let new players stand in the goalpost. And I just felt like not part of it at all.
And I'm not trying to say that this is all people who like sports. I like sports. Growing up, I was in like quite a sporty family, not in the sense of we were like professional athletes in the sense of a family that watches sports. Very big difference. I actually always found liking football as a kid to be almost a head start in life because it made it so easy to have that like first conversation with a new person. You just be like, oh, what football team do you support? And then you can talk about the football with the new person that you've just met. Easy head start in life. But with this show, there is just an immediate subversion. As soon as this intro part is finished, they are calling out the toxic masculinity tropes. Ted is just relentlessly positive and not what you'd expect to be the typical football guy or typical sports guy. And all in all, there's very little attention actually given to the football storyline. Like, I personally, as someone who has been in locker rooms before, I think this show depicts locker room culture very well and actually has multiple scenes of these men talking about their feelings and mental health and, you know, stuff that stereotypically men don't do in locker rooms. But I think that's such an important thing. The men don't talk about their mental health enough and how they're feeling.
How are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling really good, actually. Well, not like it. I wish I wasn't filming this, but realistically, the show doesn't have that much net. It's the premise of the show, but it would be like watching The Office and thinking it's going to be a show about a paper company. You're not gonna... If you don't have interest in the distribution of paper, that's not going to put you off watching The Office. It's kind of under the surface, it's always there. Like, there's always going to be that thing where sometimes they'll be making a sale and talking about it in some way. But also, I look at football and sport in general from a very storyline-spective way. That's not a word. I just made that word up.
Storyline-spective.
Like, I love the underdog story. Like, for example, Leicester winning the Premier League in 2016, or watching a great of the game build a dynasty that just can be talked about from a legacy standpoint for years and years and decades to come. I also think one of the things it does really well is it depicts the local community feature of football, and I've always found that to be the most important thing, because that's what's really nice about somewhere like here. The local community of Crystal Palace support Crystal Palace Football Club and will go to Crystal Palace Football Club games, and it's like a community thing. And it really focuses on Ted and his journey and making an impact in Richmond, and how the families and friends he makes around there are really benefiting from him being there. But also talking about how the toxic masculinity locker room culture is awful and like should be removed from the game. My point is, this show isn't about football, and this isn't me saying it. The creators of the show have outright said this.
It takes place in the soccer world, but it's never about the soccer at all.
You know, the only friend that I've recommended this show to that watched it and didn't like it is also someone who plays football every week and is part of a locker room in that sense. And I think the reason he didn't like it is because the show is making fun of him. This has got better reviews from my friends that don't like football than my friends that do. Meaning, if you don't like football, that's not really an excuse not to like this show. And with that, I'm going to get into the second section of this video. So I think the best part of this entire show is the characters, because I love all of them. They are so great. I can't stress this enough. You are going to love the characters, except I think the way it depicts the characters as just human beings is so effective, because at the start of the show, pretty much all of the characters are introduced as caricatures. I mean, you have Ted, who's this American abroad, you know, someone who means well by all means, but is a little bit annoying and overbearing and kind of pushes their own way of doing things onto other people who aren't really asking for it. And I want to get into Ted's character more because he is just my favorite character, maybe in all of fiction, other than Woody from Toy Story, obviously. Okay, ooh, it's close actually. Okay, if you're new here and have never watched a video of mine before, that's very high praise. And a lot of people are going to be shocked by that statement. So can you just like play along, pretend like that's a big star. I love Toy Story. You also have Keely, who's kind of in my head that popular girl from school that also peaked at school and never really moved on from that. Again, this is a big caricature, and in a similar way to Ted, this isn't the kind of character I can immediately just go, I want to root for this character. I can put myself in their shoes and just live through them. No, I can't really relate to Keely in the slightest. I can relate to Ted a lot more actually. Again, we'll get into that in more detail. But the reason this show is so effective is because it shows how all of these people are just human beings who are loving and kind deep down, and that's what it's all about. One thing that always stands out to me about the characters and how nice they are is how willing they are just to kind of put their own ambitions on the back burner to just help their friends. They're just all selfless, and I know maybe that's an unrealistic portrayal of reality, but this is fiction. We're allowed to think that all people are kind and caring deep down, and that's what this show really tries to emphasize. And some people can be good, and the people in this show are good, and I love them all. And of course, you have Rebecca, who's this hard as nails, tough to please, bitter woman. But obviously, we learn very quickly that there's a reason she's bitter, because of the sexism in the media that have completely abused their power to bully her. And she's just kind of got to put up with it, because that's the way the world works. But as we strip back more layers of her character, specifically meeting people from her personal life, like Sassy, and you start to see the real Rebecca, and you will empathize with her. You will. You won't want to, but you will. I can't really say much more. Rebecca's character is kind of a spoiler. And that's without even talking about the football players, the fictional football players in the show. And a feature I just absolutely love is how they mirror real figures from the footballing world. So obviously you've got Roy Kent, who is just Roy Keane, pretty much, right? I mean, it's not even, that's like, can you notice the names? They really went to a lot of effort to change that name. He's just Roy Keane with a slightly different career. Also, before we get off the topic of Roy Kent, I just wanted to, Brett Goldstein is a star now, and that's just the best thing that could possibly come from this show, being Brett Goldstein's just stardom. He's winning awards, he's in the MCU.
He's everywhere, Roy Kent, Roy Kent.
Then you also have Jamie Tart, and I feel like this is a bit more of a niche reference to anyone who's actually played football and been in a locker room with someone like this before, but there's always that one guy in any changing room at any level that has the mercurial boots and thinks they're Ronaldo. And that's what Jamie Tart is supposed to be. He's the wannabe Ronaldo. And I actually think there's a lot of similarities to Jack Grealish as well, especially with the hair. I don't know, I see some Jack Grealish in there too. You know, he's a bit up himself, he's very up himself. He's as up himself as one can be. That was a bit, okay. Like, I want to find a way to say it well, but to be honest, anything that I'm going to say has already been said better in the show. He's so convinced he's 1 in a million,
that sometimes you forget that out there you're just 1 of 11.
I love that line. That's so great. That's just, there are so many good one-liners in this show. I don't even know where this is going to go in. I'm just going to talk about it right now because I want to talk about it. It's so good with its one-liners. There's so many good quotes that you could just throw out there, and it's just perfect, and I love them. Okay, sorry. I'll go back to talking about the characters. And Nate is the next one that I want to talk about. And I know he isn't a player, but I think he's very clearly, and I mean, the actor's admitted this himself, based off Jose Mourinho. Obviously, I'm not going to try and get into any major spoilers here, but the whole dynamic with Jose Mourinho is that he was like a translator or something, and kind of was brought up into the game by Bobby Robson because he thought he had potential, and it was just someone high up seeing someone low down who has potential, bringing them up and getting them into the coaching role, and he went on to be one of the greats of the game. Nate is kind of similar. He's the water boy for AFC Richmond, but Ted sees he knows football and brings him onto the team and gets him to help think of tactics and help just coach the team in general. And yeah, there's not much I can say about Nate without really being spoilery, so yeah, just Nate is there. He's Jose Mourinho. And I feel like a beautiful feature of this show is that even the characters that come off as antagonists at the start and are dislikable, you always feel like they can be redeemed. They just need to be shown in the right direction. The whole show is because Ted Lasso is a coach, coaching these players and trying to help them be the best versions of themselves. That's kind of the beauty of it. There's never like this thing of, oh yeah, that character becoming nice didn't make sense. No, of course it made sense because they're becoming a better person. That's the point of the show. The show is all about these people becoming better people. And one of the reasons why Ted Lasso is such a great coach is because it doesn't stop coaching when he leaves the changing room. He's making an impact on society and the people around him. Anyone who he can just be nice to, he will take a chance to try and make their day better and help them be a better person. I also think in typical sitcom fashion, it gets funnier as you get more attached to the characters because you're starting to understand who they are and what they find funny and why they say what they say. But with that said, this is almost the perfect first season of a sitcom in the sense that I can't fault it. You are going to be invested in these characters within one episode. It's not going to take a few seasons to get going. One episode, you're going to be like, okay, I like most of these characters. 2 episodes, you like pretty much all of them. They do just grow on you even more. Like, it starts at like this point and it gets to there. And you know what? Even the minor characters in this show are great. Everyone who is stationed in this pub cracks me up. Firstly, they have May behind the bar. Wonderful. I love her. I would die for that woman. There's also then the 3 main fans who watch every game at this pub, and you get their reactions while the games are going on, and you see it from their perspective. And 2 of them are like really rude to Ted, and then there's the one guy that's just always really nice to Ted. And these characters become more important. The show just gets bigger as it goes on, and I love all the new characters it introduces. Keep giving me more. I want more. Phoebe being Roy's niece, who you wouldn't think has a massive part in the show, but like, yeah, she's also amazing. Don't even question it. You've got Trent Krim, the Independent. I cannot wait to see where that storyline is going. It's one of the things I'm most excited for about this show. Like, what can they even do with him? I don't know, but I can't wait. You know what, though? There is one minor character I'm not particularly a large fan of, and it's this guy that kind of walks around asking people for ussies. Like, it's a selfie, but it's of us. I don't find that joke funny, and they've made it a few times, and he just kind of keeps popping up. His story's getting developed as the show goes on, I guess, and maybe this is gonna be a funny punchline in the final season that I'm just not aware of yet. But right now, he's kind of annoying. I don't really like him. Wait, let's get the brightness right. I'm going to do a walking tour of Ted Lasso. Those dogs have got some stuff to sort.
Quiet on set.
But before we go any further, I want to thank today's sponsor, Surfshark. Now, if you don't already know, Surfshark is a virtual private network which gives you the ability to change your location while you're surfing the internet. And with over 3,200 servers in 95 different countries, that basically means that you can pretend to be in a lot of countries. That's a lot of countries right there. So if you're in a country that doesn't have Apple TV, which is where Ted Lasso is on, and a lot of other shows that I also think are pretty good, you could change your location to a country that does have Apple TV, and boom, you're there. And Netflix! You know about Netflix. Of course you know about Netflix. I mention this every time. You change your location on Netflix and you access all this new content. I don't know, I was just trying to find a new spin to put on it, guys. I feel like you know what I'm gonna say, but that's kind of the point. I'm drilling it into your heads. And you're gonna remember this. Have I just like broken the 4th wall of an ad read? But you know what the thing that sets Surfshark aside?
It's the way you can access it from multiple people can log into the same account.
Yay, Vegard read the script, guys. Everyone give a round of applause to Vegard for reading the ad read script today.
Like me, who accesses Seamus's account and doesn't have to pay for my own.
That's true, he does do that. Plus, there's an antivirus subscription just stuffed in there as well. So if you're a visual learner, this is the Surfshark package. This is the virtual private network part where you can change your location, all that good stuff, but then you get an antivirus subscription in there as well. It's just like, they didn't even need to do that. But they still do that. So if this sounds of any interest to you, make sure to use my code Gorman, Gorman, for a massive 83% off, plus an extra 3 months for free, and a 30-day money-back guarantee. So there's literally no risk to try it out for yourself. Link in the description down below. And with that said, let's get into the next section of the video. You like the last section so much, I'm giving you another one. I think my favorite feature of the show is the comedy. Oh my god, what I like the comedy in a sitcom. Haha. I don't know if I can do this. I'm being genuine. I'm not sure I can film this scripted video in public.
Obviously, this is unbelievably subjective, but I find this to be the funniest show ever.
I've never watched a show before and just like actually just cackled while watching it. Pretty much every joke lands for me, and I'm not even sure I get all of them. No, I know for a fact I don't get all of the jokes. And somehow, even when I don't get a joke because it's making an obscure reference to something in Kansas, I still find it funny just because I think they presented the joke well. Because sometimes a joke isn't about whether you actually get it, but whether you understand what they're trying to say. If I know Ted is trying to be funny, I'm gonna laugh because Ted's probably said something very funny. You know the age-old cliche of someone watching a sitcom and you find something funny and you just go, and that's your way of finding the show funny?
The big question for me here is, when you laugh, you breathe inwards. You go.
You do? Oh, I gotta do that all again. I
thought that was funny though. And then you text your friends being like, laughing my ass off at this.
Yeah, it's like, or, I get that.
Yeah.
They did a funny. That's not the case with this show. This show actively makes me laugh out loud. On rewatches as well. It shouldn't be legal for this show to be so funny, but it just gets me. It understands what's in my heart.
I've walked into Seamus watching this show and I'm just like, something must be on TV that's just, it's a comedy special, and it's this show. On several occasions this has happened.
So, what can I talk about while walking around here about the show? I keep doing things, I'm like, oh my god, this is the set. And then what am I meant to say? Another really good thing about this show is I think it deals with the USA to UK, like, cultural barrier really well. For example, I think they make references that are funny to me as a British person, but then there's also stuff that they say that I imagine Americans find really funny.
Wow, that really does a lot.
I like this personally because obviously as someone who's from the UK but also consumes a lot of American media, I find this show to be the perfect mix of like the awkward British intentionally cringe comedy sitcom and the American sitcom, where it kind of mashes these two things together and sprinkles a bit of believe yourself on top of it. And that's it. Pretty much every joke just consists of an American saying something that the rest of the people in the room don't get because they're British, and him going, oh, you'd have got that if you were in America. That's all the jokes. Or the other way around as well. Someone in Britain will say something that I get then, and I'm like, oh, I got that. And then the Americans are like, oh, I don't get it. For example, there is no way Americans are getting some of these jokes.
You just realized your dad might be a little racist.
Stop! He's in his 60s and he's from South London. Of course my dad's a little racist.
Can't keep a gaffer from his pitch.
Oh, you can say that again. Okay. I am 0 for 2 in that sentence.
As long as we're f***ing pool leaver, we're not leaving SW14.
And I'm like, there is no way Americans understand that reference, right? They don't know the London postcode system. And then on the other hand, I don't get these jokes.
It's Nathan.
Nathan! Oh, I love that name. Hey, love your hot dogs.
Yeah, no, I know.
Oh, good, good. You all got Nathan's hot dogs here?
No.
I have a branding meeting.
Oh, I always feel so bad for the cows, but you gotta do it, otherwise they get lost. If y'all were really introverts, you would have been quiet as a church mouse. You know, unless that church was Westboro Baptist. Those turkeys won't shut up.
I have no idea what he said there, to be completely honest with you. What does that mean? And that's pretty much all the jokes. I find it absolutely hilarious, and it gets me every time. For this reason, I don't think there's anyone in the world, other than maybe the writers, that understand every joke in this show. Because there are just so many niche references. I don't think there's ever been a show I've watched where they just make the most obscure references to like sitcoms and movies and television shows of all kinds, and just you're not even meant to get all of them. I kind of see it like an honest trailer video. You know when they do like the starring section in an honest trailer video? You're gonna get some of the jokes, but there is no way anyone's getting all of them. That's so neat. But then there's also the wider comedy jokes that everyone's gonna get. And alongside that, it tackles more serious topics in quite a light-hearted and inoffensive manner. For obvious reasons, I can't really go into detail about the more serious topics they cover without spoiling this show, but it isn't just a very surface-level comedy. It tackles a lot of... If you're not crying by the end, you're a goldfish, man. And that's a joke you're only going to get if you've watched the show. And I think with a dynamic where you're putting two countries up against each other, it'd be very easy to make one country the butt of the joke every time. But this show doesn't do that. I love that it equally makes fun of both sides, because it wouldn't be fun if it was just poking fun at Americans for the entire show, which I thought this show probably was going to be when I first saw the advert for it. Obviously, in America, you have 911, which is what you dial when you want to call the emergency services, whereas here in the UK, it's 999. And they make a reference to this, like, oh, we're going to need to dial 911. And they go, actually, I think it's 999 here. And then they actively make a joke about how, yeah, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah, you probably have police cars and ambulances just zipping all over the place.
A lot of the jokes also in the show are just like making fun of the way British and Americans do sports and how like there are some things that are very flawed in the systems of sports. Like in the UK, we're very happy to just end results in sporting events as draws. Whereas in America, they don't do that. If the game ends a draw, it goes to overtime.
Right, y'all do ties here.
Whereas in America, they don't have like a relegation and a promotion system, and they make fun of that because there's like no stakes basically if you're down the bottom of the table at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's dumb.
And so now we got a show that makes fun of both Americans and British people all in one sweet package, and it's great. If you can laugh at yourself and also want to laugh at Americans, it's the perfect show. And I think the reason they succeed at this so much is because of their just insane attention to detail. I can't stress enough, the attention to detail in this show is like absolutely incredible. If they can do things that make me go, oh, that's a reference to the thing from this, you're like, I got that, and you feel smart, and it's good to watch a show and feel happy with yourself. That's the kind of emotions I want to be feeling when I'm watching a TV show. References are good comedy. And if you're referencing something and I understand the reference, that's funny to me. I remember in the first episode, and this is completely random, and I'm sure this was product placement, so me mentioning it is just giving them further product placement without any payment, but Ted makes a reference to Axe body spray. And then I remember, the first thought that goes through my mind, anytime a form of American media references a brand that's in America that has a different name in the UK, I'm going like, well, that's gonna fall on deaf ears over here. And then they actively make an effort to go, oh, well, that's actually got a different name over here. It's called
Lynx. My favorite of the jungle cats.
There's no moment where I'm like, oh yeah, they didn't think about this, did they? Because they already thought about it. Oh, in a further point about their attention to detail, there are just storylines and even jokes that lap over multiple episodes. So for example, in the first episode, we meet this very brief character called Ollie. He shows up at the airport to take Ted Lasso and Coach Beard to Richmond Stadium. And you'd think, okay, well that's that character, he drove them to the airport, but no. Ted specifically gets his name and then in a later episode goes to his father-in-law's restaurant and eats like the food at the and it's like, firstly, that shows exactly the kind of person Ted is. Even if he meets someone briefly in his life, he wants to help people. He wants to do things with no expectation of a return favor, you know? But it's also just, you don't expect that. You almost forget that he met this guy before. But then, and I'm not really talking about season 2 in this episode, but in season 1, episode 9, Ted makes the joke, what does a British owl say? But we never get to hear the punchline to this joke because Beard and Nate are ignoring him in this moment. And yeah, we never get to hear the punchline joke until season 2, episode 5, where Coach Beard goes, wait, you never finished the joke. What does a British owl say? And then Ted goes,
Right.
Ooh. Ooh.
Worth the wait.
and you're like, they waited 7 episodes to finish that joke. 7 episodes and a whole season, and they finished the season and then finished this joke in like the middle of the next season. It's just that sort of attention to detail. I love that. I love attention to detail. And it just makes it feel like nothing in the show is said by accident, which really emphasizes that the creators care and genuinely love the show and want it to be the best show it can possibly be. It's like the secret ingredient for Ted Lasso is love.
I think you can say something more profound with that. Just say something about how you don't create content.
You know, as a creator myself, I make videos because I genuinely want to show my enthusiasm and enjoyment of something that I've watched, or, you know, like Ted Lasso, and because I genuinely care about making good videos, I feel like that comes off in the video. Not that my videos are even remotely comparable to the greatness that is Ted Lasso. I was just trying to make like a creative. I see what they're doing, and I appreciate that from them. I also think a fantastic feature of this, and just television shows in general over the last 5 years, is the fact it has 30-minute episodes. I think this is just the perfect episode length for any given TV show. I don't want you to at me on this. 30 minutes. That's how long TV show episodes should be. That means I can watch 2 in an hour. That doesn't work with other things. If they're 40 minutes long, then what? I watch 1 and have 20 minutes kind of sitting around feeling sorry for myself. If they're 20 minutes long, I watch 3. I don't want to watch an odd number of episodes. If they're an hour long, then I've only get to watch 1, and I'm going to want to watch another one. 20-minute episodes. Whose idea was that? Probably the advertisers, because, you know, back in the day, shows had to be 20 minutes long, so you could have 10 minutes of ads to fill the 30 minutes. Now, It's not about that anymore. Streaming services have taken over. 30-minute episodes. Everyone wins. On a genuine note though, 30 minutes is a very good amount of time to like set up a decent episode and not feel too rushed. I find with a lot of sitcoms back in the 90s and early 2000s, always had those episodes that felt a bit rushed because they were constrained to this 20-minute time. And you get to the end of the episode, you're like, how did I get to, I just started that episode and then boom, you're on to the next one because the streaming service has already loaded it up and played it. This isn't an issue anymore, and specifically with Ted Lasso, where the episodes are just kind of as long as they need to be. And it also just means that the creators of the show are never constrained by this episode length that they have to keep it to. If the episode rationalizes being longer, it's gonna be longer. You can get an hour-long episode of Ted Lasso, and that episode will have fully needed to have been an hour long, and by the end, you want hour-long episodes. But then, with that all said, I do have some minor criticisms about the show. I know they're minor though, trust me. The show is still great. If any of these make you think, oh, I shouldn't watch it, just ignore that feeling. I want to kind of not be completely like, oh yeah, this is perfect, there's nothing wrong with it. It is, and that is true, but firstly, I think it is really unrealistic of the show to depict Manchester City as having fans. I don't get that. They don't. What is this? This isn't true. And I also think some of the jokes can be a little predictable and feel like they were made 10 years ago. But then that's also just from my subjective opinion. And there might be some people hearing these jokes for the first time and finding them the most funny joke they've ever heard in their life. But yeah, not every joke lands with me, I guess. I also think, admittedly, the acting when they're actually playing football isn't very good. It does make me cringe a little bit, especially like when they're even talking to each other on the pitch. Sometimes those moments can feel a little bit forced and maybe too scripted and staged rather than something that's happening live and in real time like actual football is. And obviously they're trying to pretend that this is real, but they're not actually professional athletes, so pretending and acting to be professional athletes is relatively difficult to do, I imagine. Like, I actually think all of the actors are decent at football to an extent, but compared to the actual football you see on TV, it's not even comparable. Because, you know, if they were that good at football, it'd probably be a professional footballer. To be honest, again though, they kind of dance around football even being in the show. I mean, the first ever game that's played in the show, they blow the whistle to start the game and then immediately just cut to the end of the match. That's how much of the football they show for the most part. But as the season goes on, they start showing more. It depends on the moment. They pick their moments quite well. Sometimes it makes sense to show the goings on during the game because there are some big plot points that get delved into during matches, and I guess that's the next thing I should talk about, the story. Because as an unconventional sitcom, the feature of it that I feel like goes under the radar a little bit is that it's very plot heavy. There are hard-hitting plot lines, twists, reveals, misdirections, basically in every episode. I mean, I called it an unconventional sitcom because of how plot heavy it is, but it also goes against a lot of tropes that are found in sitcoms. And I'm saying this as someone who loves sitcoms, but very often you can watch one and a whole episode's plot could be resolved by the main two characters who are having a fight or whatever, just having a quick conversation and resolving this whole issue. Yes, it's funny. That's the point, and that is what sitcoms do. This show never stretches out a storyline longer than it needs to go. If characters are having an issue where they need to just have a quick conversation to resolve it, they will have a quick conversation to resolve the issue. Sometimes they'll put in a setup for a fallout between two main characters that you think will probably last a few episodes or maybe half the season, and no, it can get resolved in 5 minutes because the characters will just communicate what they are feeling and thinking and resolve the issue. It's great to see them actually just show men having actual just conversations about how they're feeling and that just being okay. Normalize this. I hate the phrase normalize this, but in this case, I'm standing by the fact I used it because you should normalize men talking about their mental health and feelings. Sorry, I made that sound like I was really passionate. I was just running out of breath. A big thing with this show is it being in Richmond, obviously, because the team is AFC Richmond. I have no idea why they set on Richmond, but it's always something that's been like kind of resonated with me personally because this is southwest London. I, for one, was born and grew up in West London. This is about 5 miles from where I grew up. I would say Richmond is one of the fanciest areas in London. I'm saying this as someone who like had friends at school who are from Richmond, and you know when they're like, oh, I'm from Richmond, like, oh, they're commuting to school. One of the biggest tropes in a sitcom is like characters needing to make money. This is like always a driving thing in a sitcom, like, oh, a character needs to get a job to make money and stuff. And in this show, they just like are different because, like, yes, everyone in this show is a football player. They all are wealthy. They have more money than they know what to do with, and it's just set in a very wealthy area. So they can, like, explore different dynamics that a lot of sitcoms don't explore. And obviously, therefore, it's less relatable than other shows, but it's just great to see it go at this from a completely different direction. I mean, you've got a little bit of them looking for love storylines, but it's still not a massive focus in the Ted Lasso story. It's mostly about them improving their own mental health and trying to be positive and kind to other people, and I think that's such a good angle to go at this from. Like having a character who has to deal with their own mortality, specifically in their career, through Roy Kent having to come to terms with the fact that he's past his best. He can't really play football to a professional level anymore. His legs are gone. And it's like learning how you move on from being able to do the thing that you could once do when you're unable to do it anymore. No sitcom explores that. Also, seeing these professional players and managers having to deal with this constant criticism and harassment over their performances is, well, real, because, well, that's what's actually happening to professional athletes, and I guess just anyone who has a presence online. So I, as someone who frequently uses social media and sees what's going on online, cannot believe the amount of people that don't just abuse people online, but think it's okay to do so if they've, like, played football badly, or specifically, in my case, not making a video they enjoy. Like, there are people that fully rationalize and think it's okay to do this. I saw an article about this the other day where it, like, listed the players that had received the most abuse over the last season, and just, like, people were in the comments replying like, well, yeah, he's not very good, so he deserved it. Like, no, that's not okay. How can anyone think that's okay? Yes, you can criticize someone. I think people deserve to be criticized when they are having bad moments. I criticize people in videos, and I would say it's something very important to do to make sure big public figures who have a large audience following them don't go down the wrong paths. But it's also very interesting to see this depiction of these human beings getting criticized for their performances and having to just kind of bottle it up, and, well, I guess in the end they have to talk about it. And I just think a lot of dynamics like that in shows like this are very interesting to explore and fun. I don't know why I went on such a tangent here. I was just trying to show you Richmond Green, which is a very nice area of London. I think that's the point. It's like, it's all set place in, it makes London look very nice. It's also a show revolving around a football coach whose entire job is to motivate and talk to players, and therefore there is just the perfect rationale for the main character to go on motivational monologues uninterrupted for, like, minutes on end in every episode, and I don't know what more you can want from a show. And you know what? I want to say I'm kind of in regret with this show because it is just a TV show all about kindness and positivity, and it came out in the summer of 2020. It couldn't be more perfect, could it? And more than anything, I just think it does a great job of challenging one's perspective on things. But I slept on it. I saw the adverts for it when it was first coming out. I was like, that doesn't look very good, and I didn't watch it. The biggest mistake of my life. Okay, that's a bit of an over-exaggeration. It isn't actually the biggest mistake. I've made bigger mistakes than that. I waited to watch it for an entire year, but when I did, it still resonated hard. That positivity and kindness message is always gonna be an important message for human beings, and it's the dart scene, which I'm not gonna go into in too much detail because it is a spoiler, is just kind of seen as the epitome of the show by pretty much everyone, and I think just kind of summarizes what it's all about. And you know, I actually spoke about this in the pub. Let's just cut back, we're gonna cut again to the pub now. Hi, would I be able to get a pint of Amstel, please? We're at the Ted Lasso pub now. I'm drinking on the job. Like, just by the end of the video, I'm just like 10 pints deep, like. And then I've just got on to the fact that, like, the creme de la creme, at least the way the public perceive this and, like, how people talk about it online, is in this pub, the dart scene.
Be curious, not judgmental.
Which is kind of one of the premises of the show. And I don't actually know if there's a real dartboard in here. Because, like, when they come in on the show, it's down here, and there is not a dartboard here in real life. So, because if there is, I will play a game of darts right now. See if I can go barbecue sauce.
You know, out of context, that's great.
He's, like, doing his speech as he's throwing the darts. When he throws the final dart, he goes, barbecue sauce.
Why?
I don't know, to be honest, I never got that part. It's like a cool killer line, you know?
Princess Edda's never had a dartboard. We've not got enough space for it, although I wish we did. Been asked to throw a couple of darts, barbecue sauce. Yeah, no, it's pure fabrication. Obviously, season 1, they used the interior of our pub.
Oh, really?
And yeah, absolutely. Then they went away for seasons 2 and the current one they're filming seasons 3, and built a 1-to-1 replica.
Oh, wow.
And they cast the crew when they come and say, oh, it's a bit spooky coming back in here, you know. We were just here, but we weren't.
But beyond this show being about football, something I have a massive interest and passion for, and just being a hilarious show that I find genuinely funny, I think the thing that makes me like this show more than anything is how much I just relate to Ted as a character. Being this like relentlessly positive and enthusiastic character, and I mean, that's just me. That's how I am, IRL. I mean, I think just from a general basis, this whole kind of fish out of water premise of him being in a new city with new people around him, just doing something that he's never done before, is just automatically something anyone can put themselves in the shoes in and relate to. I mean, it's kind of like the whole Harry Potter thing. It's easy to put yourself in the shoes of Harry Potter because he knows nothing about wizards and he's going to a school of wizardry, so you get to learn it with him. I mean, this is also just a common trope in story. Luke Skywalker learning about the Jedi. Buzz Lightyear learning about toys being fun things to be. This is a common trope, and I like that trope because I like all of those things I listed. But also, I just relate to Ted as this kind of overly positive and enthusiastic person to the point that it noticeably annoys people. Because while I know it noticeably annoys people how I am, they love me really.
He thinks he's mad now. Wait till we win him over.
He'll be furious.
I love this line so much, I made it my Instagram bio. Because every time I meet a new person and they don't match my energy and they're like, oh god, this guy's gonna be annoying, he's got way too much energy for me, I win them over eventually, and they are furious! However, even Ted, who I'd say is a shining example of positivity, has his low moments and even panic attacks at times. But because he is this relentlessly positive and optimistic person who kind of feels like his purpose is to bring other people up, he bottles that up and doesn't want to talk about that with people because it feels like you're letting people down when you're not at your best. And that's something I really relate to. Obviously, the football side of everything is still under the surface here, but in Ted's perspective, football is just a game. Coaching is life. But then I should clarify, football is also life, so I guess coaching is life, football is life, so therefore life is coaching. It's like a love triangle. But again, kind of back to this whole attention to detail thing I was praising, I like that it's realistic. He doesn't just come into Richmond as American football coach and it all just clicks in seconds. No, pretty much everyone hates him when he first joined. He's a catastrophic failure. But we find out very early on that Ted isn't just some idiot taking this job abroad for no reason. And he's there because he genuinely loves coaching. And he doesn't see coaching football as any different to just coaching people. Ted always puts relationships over the game that he's coaching. And at its core, I think that's the entire point of the show. Human relationships should come before everything. And they basically emphasize this in every single episode. Like, I love episode 3 just because of the one line from Trent Crimm about Ted's coaching method.
He insisted twice that he didn't care if Richmond won or lost, but if the Lasso way is wrong, it's hard to imagine being right.
To very slightly get into the plot, the first season focuses mostly on Ted's relationship with the arrogant star player Jamie Todd. So therefore most of the story kind of revolves around Ted trying to work out how to deal with Jamie's ego while also putting squad morale first to try and get results. And as Jamie's past starts to get unraveled, we see Ted slowly work his way through the cracks. There's so many twists and turns with this whole storyline and it's beautifully done, and you just have to watch it to understand. Sorry, I can't even get into it because it's all a big spoiler, but it's great. And to be honest, more than anything, this show just makes me want to be a better person. It makes me want to do more. Like, I just imagine if I could make more and more people happy and grateful that I'm in their life every day, I would feel so much more fulfilled. And obviously, you got to put yourself first at times as well, but these are all things that are great to be thinking, I feel. And I think it says it all that this show has actually been praised by some Premier League managers themselves. Like, Jurgen Klopp loves this show.
Ted Lasso mentioned me in anywhere that he said that a little bit he looked at Jurgen, that's better than getting the trophy for the best management. Unbelievable.
And I feel like that's really high praise and also important because in a way this show is about them more than anyone. Like, these guys have come from other countries to coach in the Premier League. And I think the fact that they love it is the highest praise the show could possibly get. Also, just some extra stuff that I couldn't find a way to fit into the video that I wanted to mention. I love that they're on a plane in the pilot episode. This is completely random, but the fact that there could have been a pilot present for the pilot episode, very cool. It's one of the reasons I love Lost as well. The pilot episode could be just called Pilot because it's about the pilot. It's unbelievable. So this is actually really fun. This is Ted Lasso's road. He lives on this road canonically in the show. Specifically, he lives right here. Like, someone in real life lives there, so I feel a little guilty about it. There's a Toy Story reference in season 1, episode 4.
Heck, even Woody and Buzz got under each other's plastic.
I think that's fantastic. Also, just by sheer coincidence, today we are filming this on the day of the first game in the Premier League season, which happens to be getting played at the ground Selhurst Park that they use for Nelson Road as a set in the show. And yeah, so if lots of Crystal Palace and Arsenal fans come by and start shouting things,
It's
already happened before we even started. And by the time I finish filming this video, I imagine everyone's going to have left the stadium and the game is going to be done. Actually, you know what? By the time I finish this, the whole season could be done because I still haven't recorded the first line. And they watched The Iron Giant in season 1, episode 7, which is really cool to me because I'm best friends with the director of that film. Everyone knows this. And yeah, I actually recorded a conclusion on the set of the show, but for some reason, I feel like it doesn't look like I'm there. Like, does it look like I'm using a green screen for this? Because I'm not. I was on set. So yeah, I recorded an outro there though, so you can enjoy that. And that is why, in my opinion, you need to watch the show. If you already have, then you need to watch it again because, you know, all the reasons I just listed, you know, the story, the characters, the comedy, everything about it's just so great, and it fills me with so much excitement, and it really is just, it is worth the try. If you don't think you're gonna like it, this is the ultimate vouch that you will ever get. And this is just the first video of many about this show. You think this is going away after this one video? I can skip this one Seamus video and watch the next. No, this is part 1 of 3. Ted Lasso is a free season show. This is a free video series. This was the episode on season 1, spoiler free. But you're not gonna be able to watch episode 2 without watching the show because that's gonna have spoilers in. I'm just saying, if it is within your means to watch the show, you should watch it. And if not, then just ask every one of your friends and family if they have an Apple TV account. Someone probably has one that you can watch it on, okay? If you enjoyed this video and are looking forward to part 2, make sure to leave a like. I'd say leave a like target for part 2, but I'm making a part 2 regardless of how many likes this gets. Could get one person watching it, that being my mum, and I would still make part 2 just so that she gets to see part 2. You can subscribe, watch another video, check out my Patreon in the description down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in part 2. Or in a video I do before, because part 2 is probably a few months away. Don't expect it like next week or something. Okay, cool.
Do you want to walk to the pub again?
Nah, I'm tired.